Today, you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. Dr. Seuss. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Podnuts Pro. I am your host, Marvin B. We are here early on a Wednesday, and that is because my very good guest that is here is visiting us from across the pond, Paul Green from MSP Marketing from the UK. Paul, how are you?
Very good. Thank you, Marvin. Thank you for having me on the show. And as you can probably see from behind me, it feels like the middle of the night. It's actually only 9 p.m. here in the UK, but I do appreciate this earlier time so I can get my beauty sleep. So I do need my 7 to 8 hours a night. Otherwise, I get a bit grumpy. You know,
I got it. We all need our sleep, and very happy to oblige just to get you on. And I want to say thank you for making the time for us here.
It's a pleasure.
So folks, this is the last of our series, No Marketing Marv Presents, as we talk about marketing for the managed service provider. Even if you are a solo tech, a small shop business owner, you can use all of the tips that we've gone over this past month in marketing your business. And since you're not learning it from me, and you're learning it from real experts, you're going to hear all the things that will truly help you grow your business. And we will continue that with Paul today. And before we get into that, I want to, of course, go over all of the things that you have grown to love over the last few weeks. And right now we are going to go in the news. As many of you know, John Dubinsky, my good friend, has become a Florida man, and the area that he has moved to is Fort Myers, Florida. And if you are watching the show, I'm actually going to share a quick little screen because you are going to love what is happening over in Fort Myers, Florida. This is what a Florida man looks like after he was allegedly busted peeping in a woman's window. Lee County deputies say they got a call about someone creeping around homes in Fort Myers. When they rolled up to the scene, deputies say they found 40-year-old Hugo Tapetti Alcatraz with his hands cupped around his eyes, looking through the window. His face was pressed up against the glass. Deputies say he took off running, but he didn't get far. He was cuffed and taken to the hospitals for what deputies describe as minor injuries. His mugshot shows a bandage strapped across his head and scratches on his face. So if you're in Fort Myers, Florida, don't be peeping in people's windows. And this quote, your RMM is like the Terminator, never late, never sick. It works 24/7, never misses a deadline. Here's how to monetize that for your MSP. That quote is attributed to Tom Watson, who is the Chief Channel Advisor with Ninja RMM. And you can find this article that I will link to in today's edition of the Channel E2E magazine. And Channel E2E is an entrepreneur to end website that gives you all the things that you need to know about running your MSP. And Tom's article goes on to talk about how to make money from your RMM, everything from managing clients to automating automation, and talks about all of the things that you can even monetize within a break-fix model. So I will have that link, and that is our In the News. So Paul.
Hi.
It's funny because that story actually ties into some of the things that we'll be talking about today, because not only are you a marketing expert, but you yourself are a podcaster, and RMM and telling MSPs how they can make money is something that you've done on your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's called Paul Green's MSP marketing podcast. MSP marketing is such a generic term. It's why I put my name on everything, and you can find it on any platform. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any platform you like, or on my website. And yeah, we've been on air for, I think it's about 15 months now. And every single Tuesday, brand new episode comes out. And yeah, you name it, we've covered it, because it's not just about marketing. It's actually about marketing and growing your MSP. And my mission, my goal is to help MSPs all around the world. And I have clients all around the world. I have about 200 clients in the States. And so thank you again for having me on the show, Marvin. But my mission is to help most MSPs, or all MSPs, to make more money, to have an easier life, an easier business. And ultimately, I find that, if you get the business right, and you get the marketing right, and the business growth right, and you've got new revenue streams coming in and all that sort of stuff, the clients are happier, your staff are happier, and you end up happier, and everyone ends up more satisfied with their lot. So I think running a great business is actually, it's something we all want to do, and the rewards are there for absolutely everyone when you get it right.
Right. So I wanted to mention that because I actually have listened to some of your shows going back. One of my first listens, I believe, was episode 22, when you talked about getting loads more referrals and how to do that. And I believe you referenced, what was his name?
Unstoppable Referrals from Steve Gordon.
Steve Gordon.
Steve Gordon. Yeah. So this is a book, and if you've not read this book, get this book. As Marvin said, it's called Unstoppable Referrals. Essentially, if I can do the 10-second version of it,
go right ahead,
Marvin. So this guy, the author is I can't remember his own blog. It's called Unstoppable CEO, I think. Yes. And it's a great blog to follow. And he quite rightly says that the reason you don't get more referrals has got nothing to do with the quality of the work that you do. The reason you don't get more referrals is there is a perceived social risk of referring you. So let's say, Marvin, you run an MSP. Let's say you were my MSP. And I said to my best mate, said, "Oh, yeah, you're having problems with your IT. Give Marvin a call. He's brilliant, and his company will sort you out." And then they ring you, and unfortunately they ring on the day that you're at the office, and you have a 12-year-old technician who picks up the phone and says, "Hello," and my mate says, "Oh, hi, is Marvin there?" And the 12-year-old technician says, "No, he's out." And kind of leaves him hanging. And so my mate's going to put the phone down. And that's what Steve Gordon means by a social risk. If we refer something and that turns out not to be a great experience, it actually comes back on us. So it's psychologically easier for us to not refer people. So what Steve Gordon suggests you do is instead you put together a referral kit. So for example, you get a book published. Now, I happen to have written a book called Updating Servers Doesn't Grow Your Business, which is free at paulgreensmspmarketing.com. Do you have a sound effect that you play when your guests get a free plug in the first 8 minutes of the podcast?
I don't, but I can.
You should so get one. It's not going to be that one. It should be some kind of. But on a serious note, I wrote a book. It's 44 pages long. I've given away nearly 3,000 copies. Haven't sold a single one because I give it away to MSPs. And if I was to ask for referrals, I would put together a referral kit and say to my existing clients, "Hey, here's some business cards which tell people the URL to get a free copy of my book. Would you mind just giving those to your friends, please? You don't have to refer us. Just tell us there is a book available." And obviously, I've written a book that would be of interest to MSPs. From an MSP's point of view, you would write a book that is of interest to business owners or managers. And that referral kit idea, it's completely fleshed out in that book, Unstoppable Referrals. The other thing that Steve Gordon says, which is really interesting, is that when people do refer, they refer the wrong way. So Marvin, could you imagine how awful it would be for one of your clients to say, "Yeah, look, give my guy a ring. I use Marvin. He's brilliant. You can ring him on his cell at 9 p.m. on a Sunday night to tell him your printer stopped working." Because that's not the kind of referral you want, is it? But yet our clients don't refer us the way that we want to be done. So the referral pack just removed all of that problem.
Right. Well, let me tell you a quick story, because I have a gentleman that has just given 2 referrals to me. And the way that he did it was, of course, not 100% proper, but it worked. And he actually, gave out my name and number, but he did qualify. He said, "Look, Marvin is very busy. Marvin works with big businesses and attorneys.
Yeah.
Call this number. He may not answer because he's so busy.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But if he calls you, that means that he wants to work with you. So be sure to leave a detailed message on what your issue is, and he'll call you back. And that's how I got 2 referrals in the last month. But I was cringing when I said, "Ooh, don't tell people I may not call them back." However, they were so grateful that I called them back. And even though I tried to say, look, we need to make sure that we fit. We need to make sure that, you like me, I like
Absolutely.
you. And they said, look, if Eric says that you're the man, you're the man.
That's great.
So,
isn't that great?
But I haven't put together a true referral kit, but I remember that episode, and I have listened and read some of Gordon's stuff. So I like it very much. So for those of you that do not know, Paul Greenlit, as we mentioned, is from the UK and specializes in MSP marketing. And he's also a former journalist, radio presenter, which is why his voice sounds so much better than mine.
It's just practice. That's all it is. It's just practice.
Now, you've had this business for, 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah, so
but you've been doing marketing for a long time, so I don't want to give people the wrong impression that you're a radio guy turned MSP marketer. So tell us a little bit of.
Yeah, you're sorry, I'm interrupting you there, which is one of the things they teach you in radio not to do, and that shows you how long I've been out of radio. So I started as a newspaper reporter on a little town newspaper in the UK, and then I did 10 years on radio. So I was the breakfast news guy, then I was the breakfast guy, and I ended up running radio stations. And radio is really good fun until it's not. It's like most jobs. And in 2005, I had what's known as an entrepreneurial seizure. And Marvin, have you ever read a book? You clearly have, by Michael Gerber.
Michael Gerber, the entrepreneur. Yeah, E-Myth.
Revisited,
Revisited, and
that's it. It's brilliant. And he talks about that we have that seizure, and we have to go and run our own thing and do work for ourselves. And in fact, the unhappiest people on this planet are the people who've had that entrepreneurial seizure and haven't acted on it. Whereas obviously you and I and everyone watching, we've acted on it. So I started my first business. It was a general marketing business, and I actually sold that. I did, was it 10, 11 years in that business? And I sold that. It was 5 years ago last week. And we sold that. We were doing £1 million, which is about $1.4 million. And it was a lovely business, completely operated without me. I didn't need to be there. So I had to go in and steer the ship, but I didn't need to be there at all for the business to thrive, which is one of the reasons why I sold it. It was what we call a finished business. It was complete. And then I started working with MSPs because I had a non-compete agreement. I used to work with veterinarians, dentists, and opticians, and I couldn't work with them for 5 years. So actually, as of last week, I could work with them. Which
now you can.
I have no desire. I've never known such a lovely bunch of people and in such a dynamic world as the MSP world. I've seen direct competitors work together, for mutual benefit, to help the clients. I've seen all sorts of wonderful things. Of course, I've come across a few idiots along the way, but I've never known such a bunch of lovely people. And one of the things that I love most about this is just the willingness to help. And I realize that's why you get into this, but the willingness to help absolutely anybody. And this is not how all business owners operate out there. This truly is a wonderful world to work in. And I intend to stay here for either for the next 10 years or till I get kicked out anyway.
Okay, well, glad to hear all of that, and thank you for explaining, because I'm sure that people always want to know the history. How did you become an expert? Well, the fact that you were in the business, sold a business, and got it to completion is a testament to that. So let's also talk about the fact that you have put together a strategy for MSPs. Now, on all the other previous marketing shows, we've talked about, content marketing, Facebook, Google My Business, blah, blah, blah. And I shouldn't have said it blah, blah, blah like that, because all of those things are important, but I'm no marketing Marv. But you've put together a strategy that really doesn't say specifically what you have to do, but more of the concepts of what needs to be done. And the first one is, building your audience. So walk us through those processes.
Sure. So it's a simple 3-step strategy, and you're absolutely right. Most marketing people and most MSPs talk tactics. So just today, I spoke to an MSP for the first time. I've known him for a while, but we've never spoken. And his first question was, what marketing should I be doing? Should I be doing LinkedIn or Facebook? And I'm like, whoa there, horsey, back up a step. Because before you can talk about what tactics you're going to use, you need to talk about the strategy. And this is the simplest strategy. This is actually the same strategy I use in my business. It's the same strategy I used in my last business. It's what I recommend for 99% of MSPs, and it would work in most B2B industries. Let me take you through the 3 steps, and then we'll put some meat on the bone. So the first step, as you said, Marvin, is to build multiple audiences. And we'll come back to that in a second and look at what does that mean. But essentially, it's people who are going to listen to you. The second step then is to build a relationship with those audiences. And we'll look at why you need to do that in a second. And then the third step is to commercialize that relationship. So essentially what we're going to do is gather together a bunch of people, make it so that they get to know us, or they think and believe that they know us. And then we're going to look for the opportunity to steal them from their incumbent MSP. So if we go back up to that first step, which is to build multiple audiences, for most MSPs, there are 2 audiences you have to build. The first of them is your email database. So literally the people that you're emailing out. Go and get yourself a CRM like MailChimp or MailerLite, or if you're really serious about marketing, you get ActiveCampaign or Keep, which is KEAP, or if you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to spend and you want the best tool, HubSpot is the best tool. But most MSPs should get started with just MailChimp or MailerLite. So you put together a CRM, you gather together all the data you've already got. So all MSPs who've been going for any period of time will have data hidden away in their email, in website forms, in business cards, anyone you've ever spoken to on the phone or met or anything, you gather all that data together, you dump it into your CRM. And if you've been going 3, 4, 5 years or more, you will already have hundreds of people you've previously spoken to. Now, that's quite motivating to get all of that data into your CRM, because once you've done that and you've got an email database, 500 people is a great email database. It's not as great as 5,000 people, but it's a great place to start. And what I've found working with most MSPs is if you can pull together data you've already got, then that gives you a really quick start to want to then move on to the next step, which is building a relationship with them. So that's the first database. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned is obviously starting with what you have, because a lot of us are told, go out and buy a list, go get a list, and then clean it up, strip it down, define your parameters, all of that stuff. You're not saying that. You're saying start with what you already have.
Yeah, so most of the MSPs I speak to have been going for some time. So if you're a brand new startup, buy a list, absolutely buy a list. It's just the quickest way to get started. There are so many downsides of buying a list. You're the 50th person to target them today. The data's never yours. You're licensing it for 6 to 12 months. You can't use it at the end of that license because they seed purchase data with fake email addresses. So let's say you bought some data today and it expired in 6 months, but you send it an email after it's expired. They will know you've sent them an email and they'll unleash their lawyers on you. So there's lots of upsides of data is it just gets you going fast. There are downsides of data. There are quicker ways to acquire data. You can scrape it from Google. I'm not sure how legal that is. It's probably not that legal, but it's public information. There are all sorts of guys on Fiverr.com and Upwork.com that will scrape data for you. You can drive traffic from Facebook. You can drive traffic from LinkedIn. So there's lots of different ways to drive traffic. But if you've got data, start with that data. How long have you been going, Marvin?
23 years.
Oh my goodness, but you don't look old enough to have started a business when you were 13. You can thank me later.
I was going to say, you can't see up close here with the light.
I thought that was a fashion choice rather than a necessity. So you've been going 23 years. You've spoken to 1,000 people in that time. You don't think you have, but you have, because that averages out at a couple of hundred people a year or 100 people a year. You think about all the events you've been to in your town. You think about every phone call you've had. You think about every single person who's emailed in or filled in a form, or if you've been in BNI for a couple of years, you think about the sheer number of people and referrals. All of that, you gather it together, you shove it in your email database, and you'll get, some of those people are dead. I mean, literally dead. Some of those people have gone out of business. Some of those people have moved to another town. It doesn't matter. That's going to be a small proportion of the people. And all of those people, you're much more likely to get business out of those people than you are just buying a list.
Right.
Interestingly, when it comes to building your email database, because starting off with one is one thing, but you need to build it. Here's the best way to build it is to put data capture on your website and drive traffic to that data capture. And you can't just say to them, hey, sign up for my newsletter, because no one wants more spam. So what you do instead is you offer them an ethical bribe. Ta-da! That's a book. That's my ethical bribe. So on my website, paulgreensmspmarketing.com, you can sound your plug klaxon again now. You can get a free copy of my book. We physically post it out free in the UK and in the States. And we do that to build our email list. And MSP should do exactly the same thing. If you don't have a book, get a book written for you. You can get it ghostwritten. I'm a writer. I was a trained writer at 19. But if I wasn't a writer, I would go onto Fiverr or Upwork, and I would just pay a writer to do it for me so that I didn't have to do it. So that's email. Now, the other database I recommend that you build is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, and some people look at LinkedIn and think, oh, it's just awful. And yeah, sure, I don't know of anyone who wakes up in the morning rubbing their thighs, can't wait to get onto LinkedIn. But here's the thing, Marvin, you've been in business for 23 years. That's 1998. If I rang you up in 1998 and said, hi, Marvin, I'm from the future. And here in the future, we've got a database of all businesses. And in fact, the database has the decision makers of all the businesses. You can see what they look like. You can see their contact details. You can see anything they've written recently. You can connect to them just by pressing a button. If you don't know them, you can get someone else to introduce you, although not that LinkedIn really works like that anymore. You can pay some money to this database, because this database is free, Marvin. You can pay some money to this database and you can connect to an unlimited number of people every single day. Oh, and you can message them directly as well, directly to them. Would you be interested in a database like that? And 1998 Marvin, rocking a cool haircut, not saying your haircut isn't cool now, but rocking hair would be like, yeah, I'm having that. That sounds like, that's amazing. Because right now we're using paper directories and we're advertising in newspapers and stuff. And then we fast forward to 2021 and everyone's a bit apathetic about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the world's greatest prospecting database. And it is literally, it couldn't have been better designed for MSPs. It's absolutely perfect. And I recommend that you build your LinkedIn connections. So I've got 5,500 connections, something like that. And that's from pretty much a standing start in about 15 months. And all of those are MSPs or vendors of interest, big vendors that I might want to do something with at some point. All of that has been built using automation. There's a wonderful tool. It's called Dux Soup. That's DUX-soup, as in soup that you drink. Okay. And there are alternatives. You just Google alternatives to Dux Soup. That happens to be the one that I use, not personally, but my team uses it. And all you do, it sits as a plugin in your Chrome, and it will automate your behavior for you. So, for example, if you put it into your Chrome and you say to it, these are the people I want to connect with. So it will literally, in its tab, it will go and open someone's record. It will sort of scroll down a bit, have a look like we do, and then it will go back up and it will press the blue connect button and it will paste in a message and change their name, and then it will send it off to them. And it's doing this either up to the limits of the daily free thing. So I think you can connect up to 20 people a day on the free version of LinkedIn, which is enough. That's all that we use. Or obviously it's unlimited if you buy Sales Navigator. And these automated tools are against LinkedIn's terms and conditions, but there's so many of them now. And because they operate in your Chrome, I'm guessing it's pretty hard for LinkedIn to detect you're using automated software. And what many MSPs do is they run it on a virtual machine. And pretty much the only mustn't break rule is if you are using automation, you mustn't go on LinkedIn on a different device. So we have a rule in our business. We run Dux Soup in the mornings, and I and my team don't go onto any of the LinkedIn any of our LinkedIns, because we've got some multiple ones, until the afternoon, and that way we know we're not clashing with the automation.
All right. So DUX-soup, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes, folks. And as he mentioned, there is a free starter edition that you can use up to 100 tags. So pretty good.
Yeah, it's a great piece of software. It can message people as well. There's DuckSoup is one of those tools that I think it's $20 a month. You'll end up paying $20 a month for the functionality, $20-ish. It's one of those that the more you look at it, the more things you realize it can do. I love software like that, don't you? It's you can just get so much value out of it.
That'll work.
Yeah.
So now let me just ask a quick question, because we have focused on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all of that. So you've diverted yourself to LinkedIn. Obviously, in my opinion, it's a more professional product.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happened is everybody was using it as their own personal resume. So it wasn't that place where you could go and, socialize and mingle for, the prospecting side of it. But it sounds like you're saying that's the perfect place to do it.
Yeah, there are lots of different ways to use LinkedIn. Some people use it for job hunting. People do use it for genuinely connecting with people. But and there are groups. There are groups in LinkedIn. It's very hard to find them, but they are there. Not many people use them. But a lot of people use LinkedIn to get business. In fact, LinkedIn is almost like a bad networking meeting. Have you ever been to a bad networking meeting where you go in and you realize everyone's there to sell and no one's there to buy? And that's pretty much what LinkedIn is like. The difference with LinkedIn is you can network with thousands of people in one go, and you're right. LinkedIn is a more professional network. It's the business network. Now, Facebook has a value. Facebook has immense value because Facebook reaches everyone, and I put everyone in inverted commas there because we all have a Facebook. Whether or not we use it is, obviously the sort of backlash against Facebook has been going for a number of years.
Right.
But Facebook is a great way to reach decision makers in their downtime. So we run adverts. So we have a service called the MSP Marketing Edge, where we supply marketing content to MSPs all over the world. And we run adverts for that from Friday evening to Sunday, I think the early hours of Monday morning. And the reason we do that, and we do that on Facebook, and I think we do some YouTube ones as well. And we primarily do that because I want to reach decision makers in their downtime. Because it's very hard to reach people when they've got their gatekeepers, but at the weekend, they're at a barbecue or just, working in their yard or whatsoever. It's much easier to reach people using platforms like Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, and YouTube than anything else.
All right. So, Paul, I do want to acknowledge that we have a question from the chat. I probably didn't do my due diligence in announcing that we are streaming live to both YouTube and the Facebook. And when you were talking about the LinkedIn, we had a question pop up. Do you need Sales Navigator to use Ducks?
No, you don't. So Ducks, we've built from 400 to 5,500 with the free LinkedIn and the paid DuckSoup, that's to say $20 a month. Now, if you have Sales Navigator, in fact, one of my clients is adding, I can't remember now if it's 700 connections a week or a month. I think it's got to be a week. He's adding 700 connections a week because he has Sales Navigator and DuckSoup, and it must be just literally running 24 hours. It's almost too much. I said to him, you perhaps need to scale that back a bit. There'll come a point where the LinkedIn algorithm is going to go, whoa, hang on a second here. Nobody's working 24 hours a day here. You've got to pretend you're a human. But no, ProTech guy, to answer your question, you don't need Sales Navigator. In fact, do you know what? I and Microsoft will not thank me for this because Microsoft, of course, own LinkedIn. I cannot see why you would buy Sales Navigator unless you were a full-time salesperson using LinkedIn 8 hours a day. For the average MSP that's going in and using it for 20, 30 minutes a day, plus a bit of automation, the free edition is more than good enough.
All right. Good there. Good news there. All right. So let's move on because I don't want us to run out of time. So we were talking about building the multiple audiences, and LinkedIn is the good place to start.
Absolutely. So that's step one, build multiple audiences. Step two is to build a relationship with them. Now, before I tell you how to do this, and let me tell you why you need to do this, you've got to put yourself in the mind of the average business owner or manager who's thinking of buying from you. So I very rarely talk about selling to other IT managers, co-managed IT, because that's a completely different set of marketing skills and a different marketing mindset and psychology. But for business owners and managers, if you look at things from their point of view, they don't know a great deal about technology. They may think they do, but they really don't. They don't understand the cloud, certainly not well enough to be able to explain it in the short sentence. They don't really know the horrors of ransomware. They don't get this whole data security thing. They still think it's called Office 365. So there's a very, very low level of awareness and ability, technical ability amongst the average business owner or manager. And for that reason, there is a huge amount of fear when they are looking at switching from one IT support company to another. And in fact, every MSP has experienced a phenomenon where you meet a prospect, you get on really well, you've clicked, you've talked, they're a good fit for you, you're a good fit for them. They don't like their incumbent, and they're at the end of their contract, and your price is right. And you literally are thinking, oh yes, this is in the bag. And what happens? They go and sign another year with the incumbent that they're desperate to leave. And no one can really understand it. Well, I'll tell you why they've done that. They've done that because of fear. You see, even though they've clicked with you, they don't know you. They know that technology is really important, and that actually whoever's doing their IT has the power to cripple or kill their business. And I'm not a tech, but you really do have that power. You don't realize how much power you've potentially got over their business. So when they don't know the person they're thinking of handing all this power to, it seems safer, it feels safer that you know. So better the devil you know, as the old saying goes. And this is why, we call this inertia loyalty, where it feels easier for them to stick with the old guys than to go to the new guys, even though the new guys appear better. Now, notice my use of the word feels there. People do not pick a new MSP with the noggin. They don't do it with the old brain box. They do it with their emotions. Right. So, an average business owner picks you based on whether or not they like you. If they don't like you, they're not going to pick you. You said earlier on that you'd got a referral, and your friend, was it Eric? Friend Eric had said, "Hey, you've got to use Marvin. He's brilliant." From an emotional point of view, that makes you safe. And this is why referrals are so powerful. It would be great if we could get more referrals, but you have become safe within Eric's emotions. Now, we can't do that all the time. So this is why we have that second step of the strategy, which is to build a relationship with people. Because if they feel as though they know us, even if it's just at a very low level, before they buy from us, then they're more likely to buy. How do we do this? Very simply, we content market to them. So we hit them. Well, in fact, there are 3 types of content I suggest you do. There's daily content, weekly content, and monthly content. So daily is about putting something onto social media every day. And you can access canned content from all sorts of places. My service, for example, the MSP Marketing Edge, gives you canned social media content. And if your area is available, we only sell that to one MSP per area. You can get it from things like, I think Kaseya has got some canned social media content in one of their services. There's, the Tech Tribe has canned social media content that's available. So there's lots of places to get canned social media content. You understand what I mean by canned? Yep. It's kind of generic, and lots of people use it. That's okay, because that's better than nothing. But what you then must do at least once a week is put something real on. So, for example, at some point when you're talking, Marvin, I'm going to take a screenshot of this, and this is going to go on my LinkedIn. If not live now, I'll perhaps do it tomorrow morning, and to say, hey, I was on a podcast with Marvin last night. And that's real content. For MSPs, the real kind of content would be, a client rings you up and says something that scares you, turn it into a LinkedIn post. Someone's been hit by ransomware, turn it into a LinkedIn post. A new service has just been launched, turn it into, I don't mean you launching it, but you've just read about something that's made you excited, turn it into a LinkedIn post. So we've got daily social media. We've then got weekly email. So once a week, you send an email out to your email database. When we say send an email, we don't mean a selling or promotional email. We mean an educational email. So teach people stuff. And remember that their tech ability is very, very low. So don't talk down to them. Come down to their level and talk to them about the things that interest them, which is getting things done, productivity, it's staying safe, it's saving money, it's getting more done. It's the ability, certainly this is a big one in the last year, is the ability to work anywhere at any time on any device. Of course, cybersecurity data security is one of the biggest issues. It's not to them until they know someone who has been affected. It's
Right.
like being burglarized. I lived in a city called Nottingham. You know where Robin Hood comes from? Nottingham is still full of outlaws today. No offense intended to anyone from Nottingham, but I lived there for a year. We were burgled twice in a year. And the second we were burgled, all of our, this is in my late 20s, so we didn't care about security then. All of my friends suddenly started buying burglar alarms and putting, extra locks on their windows because we had been burglarized. And it's exactly the same with cybersecurity. So, all of these things are the kind of things that you can teach people about. And the trick with your content is not just to make it educational, but to make it entertaining. And this is called edutainment content. So it's fun and enjoyable as well as being educational. So we've got weekly social media, daily email, and then monthly, send them something in the post. Ideally, a printed newsletter that, again, educates them. Or you could send them a sales letter, but it gets tiring receiving a sales letter every month. When you started in 1997, Marvin, you had loads of junk mail every day, but you had very little email junk.
Right.
And today it's the complete opposite. So, I couldn't tell you the last time I got something in the post that wasn't either from Amazon because I'd ordered it, or a bank statement. And I do still get bank statements from one of my banks that I can't switch it off for some reason. And nothing else comes in the post anymore. So imagine getting a bright blue or yellow or red or green envelope from you, and it's got a stamp on it. It's not been franked or anything like that. It's an actual physical, someone's had to lick it and put the stamp on, and it's got a handwritten address. And inside there's a 4-page printed newsletter full of edutainment content. That's the kind of thing that someone reads on the toilet, that someone files away, they put it on their desk, they give it to their colleagues, it gets pinned up. And with all of this kind of marketing stuff, what we have to remember more than anything is that people only buy when they're ready to buy. This is a critical one. In fact, if you've not heard this before, get this tattooed on your head. Just make sure it's in reverse writing so you can make it out in the mirror. People only buy when they're ready to buy. Don't actually get that tattooed. That would be weird.
I don't think you could read it here either.
Well, you could just do a sticker then. That might be the best thing. Because people only buy when they're ready to buy, we've got to build a relationship up with them, and it can take years. I mean, you know how long your sales cycle is already, and often they've sat and been dissatisfied for a year before they've inquired to you. So all of those social media posts, all of those emails, all of those printed newsletters, they all go to building up a relationship with people.
Well, that goes back to what you mentioned earlier about the fact that you may have met somebody who was unhappy with their current MSP,
yes,
and they don't switch because they haven't hit that comfort level with you, or they haven't hit that aggravation point with the other MSP,
exactly,
or whatever. But staying in content, in touch with them, keeps them, keeps you top of mind, is what I meant to say.
100%.
So that at least they can, they'll always in the back of their mind saying, yeah, I keep getting this, this email, and they send me this postcard, they sent me donuts, and the information that, the information that is put in the daily content. That was going to ask you about that, because a lot of times we've run into some of those canned campaigns where they're so generic, where it's, hey, have a happy day, here's a cup of coffee for you.
Which is rubbish. That kind of stuff's rubbish. You've got to give value. Before I come to that, let me just slightly disagree with something you've just said. You said about staying top of mind. Your top of mind position fades in hours. Literally hours. You could send a printed newsletter to someone. They could sit and read it, say, oh, this is brilliant, put it down. 3 hours later, they won't remember it. They will not remember it. So this is why we never stop marketing. Ever, ever, ever. You stop when only one of 3 things happens. Either they buy, or they die, or they say bye-bye, and they literally, they unsubscribe, they vanish. Because if you stop, you lose the momentum that you're building up. Yes, Tuesday. Yeah, it was Tuesday yesterday. We won a brand new client to our MSP Marketing Edge. It was a US guy. He's been in my database for 3 years. This is quite unusual for me. We normally have a shorter sales cycle. For 3 years, he has opened 70 odd emails, He had clicked through about 30 of those. He's been in my Facebook group, my MSP marketing Facebook group, for 2 years and has commented on about 20 things. And we know he's listened to my podcast about 20 or 30 episodes because we can track that through our system. And for whatever reason, yesterday was the day he decided to try it out and start his 3 months trial. So can you when you look at that, it suddenly becomes really rewarding to slog out doing the stuff every day.
Yeah.
And the question of what content comes up all the time. There's a very easy answer. In fact, there's a 2-word answer to content: your tickets. So all the content you could ever possibly need is sat in your tickets. You think about all the things that people ask you about, all the questions. Well, it's your tickets, it's your QBRs, your quarterly business reviews, or strategic reviews, as I prefer to call them. It's your, every contact with a client. Every single one generates you a content idea. I talk to MSPs every day, and right next to me is a pad here, a letter-sized pad. And look at, you see all of these entries here are ideas for content that come from talking to MSPs. In fact, there's something you said at the beginning of the show, and I've written down an idea for content. So when your mind is attuned to it, every single ticket, every single client contact, everything becomes a source of content. Because the kind of content we're talking about here is not what's the DMARC setting in so-and-so software under the settings product. It's not that. People would rather lose a toe than read that kind of stuff. The kind of content we're talking about here is, why is my computer slow?
Right.
Why is my computer slow is 10 pieces of content. Because, if I was your client, Marvin, and I said to you, Marvin, my computer's slow, why is that? And you'd go, well, there's a number of things it could be. It could be that, the computer's old. It could be that you've got 6,000 tabs open in Chrome. It could be that you need an SSD instead of a hard drive. It could be we could bang some more RAM in. It could be because you haven't rebooted that computer since 2017. There's a whole number of things it could be. And each of those, you can take them into, you can take them in and you can turn them into a piece of content. Can I recommend a book on content marketing?
Yes, you can.
That'd be all right.
Yep.
I have a pile of books here.
Yep. And while he's doing that, I will say, folks, that one of the things that Paul said earlier is that he does all of this. And if you were to look at his website, look at his podcast, look at his blog posts, they are all similar type things because they're not all about marketing. I mean, there's one about how to convert break-fix clients to managed services.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a marketing person's job to teach us that, but
I disagree with you on that one.
you
But
can go right ahead. So,
anyway, we'll get sidetracked. We'll come back to that later because we'll
okay.
get sidetracked by that. Or everything in the business is marketing. If it's not delivery, it's marketing. When your 12-year-old tech picks up the phone and says, "Hello, tech support, how can I help?" And he's a bit hungover and he's got his weak voice on and he's being a bit pathetic. That's marketing. That's really bad marketing because instantly your client is on the back foot thinking, "Oh my God, can I speak to one of the proper techs, please?"
It's all part of the image, all part of the presentation.
It is. It really is. And the thing is, if that happens again and again and again, that's when you start to affect your retention, which again is a marketing thing. So content. This is the book I recommend. It's called They Ask, You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. Possibly one of the best books I've ever read about content marketing. And in fact, it inspired a revolution in our own business. And that's how good it is that, I took my sort of 15, 20 years of marketing experience and sort of flipped our model on our head. So the 60-second version of this book, 14, 15 years ago, Marcus Sheridan owned a swimming pool company, installation company in the States. Doing all right, hard slog. He was the sales guy and one of the owners, and they were basically spending so much money to acquire a client that they were at risk of losing their homes, literally losing their homes, him and the other owners. And out of desperation, he decided to do a different tack. And he thought, you know what? People always ask me the same questions, so I'm going to answer those questions on our website. And he would sit down every night, despite being exhausted from the day's sales calls, and he would pick a question from the day and he'd write a really long article on it. And in fact, you can still see he still owns a swimming pool company today, although it's now turned into a manufacturer and a dealer. And it's Riverpool Spa Riverside Pools and Spas, I think, or River Pools and Spas. If you just Google swimming pool Marcus Sheridan, you'll find it. And they've created what now they call a learning center or a learning hub. And they have thousands of articles and videos and download guides and all that sort of thing, teaching people about how to pick a swimming pool installation company. So they're not adverts for the company. They're teaching people how to buy a pool. And then he's gone on and done it with a marketing company, and he's done it with thousands of companies. And we, in the book, I read this and I instantly thought this is perfect for MSPs, because very few MSPs have educated their audiences about how to buy tech services. Something we delivered to our MSP Marketing Edge clients last week was an IT services buyer's guide. It's a 25-page guide they can personalize, put it on their website, so potential clients can come and download that. They don't need to put their details in. They can just come and download that, and it teaches them how to pick a good MSP or how to pick a good IT support company.
All right. I've put a link. I found the Amazon link for the book, They Ask, You Answer.
Thank you.
By Marcus Sheridan, so people can find that either in the show notes that I do afterwards or here in the video feed if you're watching even at a later date.
Cool. Very briefly, because I know we're running out of time. I do love talking about this stuff.
That's okay.
Can we do a 3-hour show next time?
We could. I can split it up if we need to.
So we had a 3-step strategy: build multiple audiences, build a relationship with those audiences, and then finally commercialize that relationship. And this is where you turn the leads into prospects, into opportunities, into clients. So a lead is anyone that's in your audiences. You will have hundreds or thousands of leads in your business. A prospect is where you start having a one-on-one conversation with someone. So if they phone you or book 15 minutes with you through your live calendar or email you, they become a prospect because it's now a one-on-one thing. From there, we need to qualify them. So some MSPs don't want anything less than 20 users. Other people, have very specific verticals they work in. Not all prospects turn up qualified, although those that have read a buyer's guide are more likely to turn up qualified, but it's the qualification stage. So they go from lead to prospect to qualified lead, to qualified prospect to client. So what we do to turn all that database, the email database, the LinkedIn, the other things we do, the single best thing that you can do is to get someone to phone your audiences. And this isn't you. I've only ever met 1 or maybe 2 MSPs who are very happy to pick up the phone 50 times a day and actually make outbound phone calls. But instead, this is a job to hire a back-to-work mom who can work 2 to 3 hours a day, 2 to 3 days a week, and probably from home, but using one of your VoIP phones, and she can make calls on your behalf. And it's not even sales calls; they're relationship building calls. She's looking for the opportunity of someone that's really unhappy now. And let me get this is a real secret I'll give you now, Marvin. There's a specific question. You hire a nice warm mom who's lovely to talk to on the phone, who she loves picking up the phone and chatting to people. You enjoy talking to her. Perfect. Doesn't matter what her background is. Doesn't matter anything. Doesn't her accent matters in that it's got to match your local area, but that's easy. Certainly in the States where you've got 1 billion people living in every town. But the most important thing is that she's warm and she asks this question. This is secret sauce question. This is right. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? Sorry, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is amazing and 1 is awful, how happy are you with your current IT support company? So on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is amazing, 1 is awful, how happy are you with your current IT support company? And when she asks that question, she needs to then zip it and give them time to answer, because you cut off one side of any conversation and the other person will jump in and answer. That was a trick I learned working in radio. So if they answer 10, 9, or 8, there's no opportunity. Politely, finish off the call, give them a call back every year, sure, but they are what we call bonded. They're literally bonded with their MSP. And you would hope that your clients would give you that score, because 10, 9, or 8 is a very happy client indeed. Now, if they answer 7, 6, or 5, there is an opportunity, and it is coming up, because 7, 6, or 5 is actually dissatisfied. Now, there's a caveat here. people can be dissatisfied today and back up to normal tomorrow. You know, today they had a problem, you couldn't get it fixed quickly, you didn't phone them back when you said you would, and they're unhappy today, but in the grand scheme of things, they're quite happy, and by Monday they'll be okay again.
Right.
What you're looking for is someone that's unhappy. And in fact, there's a follow-up question, which I'll tell you about in a second. So 765 is an opportunity. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, -1, -2. Those are urgent, immediate, drop everything opportunities. So someone who gives that lower score is desperately unhappy. And here's what Back to Work Mum follows this up with. She says, wow, that's a really low score. Can I ask, what is it that's made you give them that score? And again, she stops talking. So what is it that's given you that score? Not what's gone wrong or why have you given them that score? What is it that's made you give them that score? And then the person they're speaking to, most of the time, will then start a little rant about what the incumbent has done wrong, which is brilliant. This is why you want her doing this on your VoIP system, because not only is she helping to set up an appointment with you, because that's her goal. Her goal is to book 15-minute appointments with you. But also you can go back and listen to the VoIP call and you can hear all the things they're unhappy about. So if they do a little rant about how, you know, no one seems to pick up the phone quickly enough, no one ever tells them what's going on, jobs seem to take so long, then you know within the first 5 minutes of your conversation, you've got to work in there about how you have an SLA, or you have, you know, you 99.7% of your, I hate to use the word tickets, but tickets are closed, you know, or finished, jobs are completed on the same day that they're opened. And the clients, the future clients, will tell you how to sell to them, essentially, which is beautiful.
Caught yourself there, because you did have a show where you talked about don't call them users and tickets.
I did. So those are in those. Did I do that? Did I? No, I didn't notice that. So those are internal words, and we can, you and I and everyone listening to this, we can say users and tickets and fine. But you talk to normal people. A user is, and I don't know if this is the reference in the States, but certainly here in the UK, a user is someone who takes drugs, or someone who uses other people. It's not a pleasant word.
Well, we have that here, but we branch it out to many things.
Yeah, I'm sure. But you know, tickets is a terrible. Someone's problem is not a ticket. It's a problem. They can't work. It's a catastrophe. It's a disaster. It's
right.
Terrible. Now, we wouldn't want to use those words, but I've heard texts. I've heard MSP owners speaking to clients saying, yeah, I'm calling about your ticket. It's not a bloody ticket. The ticket is right. Just a classification.
I wasn't speeding.
Yeah, yes, exactly that. A ticket it can be a bad thing. I mean, it can also be a good thing, but it's not a ticket. It's your problem. It's your issue. And yeah, those are internal words, but it's so easy to forget, isn't it, that they are internal words.
All right. So there are the three strategies, or the part of the three strategies. 1, build multiple audiences. 2, build relationships. And 3, commercialize the relationship. And you're right, we could have delved into any of these for a much longer time, but we'll have to reschedule and get you on, because I do want to ask you about all the things that you told me I had wrong, because I am no marketing Marv, and that's why I have you guys on, is to tell us what we're doing wrong and how to correct it. So that should be good. All right, cool. Paul. So did we leave anything out? I know that, you know, we just wanted to focus on those, but were there anything that popped up in your head that you wanted to make sure, you know, you circled back around and got to, or did we hit everything?
I think we've hit everything. I'm pretty good at, from my radio days, I'm pretty good at remembering where did we leave something unanswered, and I'm 99% sure that we covered everything off. If we didn't, and you're listening and you want to sort of ask, if you go onto my website, paulgreensmspmarketing.com, you go onto the contact us page and you just send me an email. My team, say you heard me on a podcast, and my team will make sure it gets to me, and I'll happily answer that if you have a question.
All right. Yep. I will have that link in there as well. And I will be reaching out to you again to have you back on. So I hope that you'll say yes.
Oh, yes, I will.
And, definitely. So folks, Paul Green's MSP Marketing. And this is the point of the show where we start to sign off. But before we do, we have a little segment that we like to call Florida Man or Random Question. And you heard the story at the beginning of the news segment today about our Florida Man incident that happened in the last few hours. Do you have a interesting story from the UK that you'd like to challenge Florida Man, or would you rather just do a random question?
I think the UK is having a boring day today because it's all just still coronavirus news here. So, random question, please.
Okay, random question it is. So I'm going to go over to my random question generator, and one of these days I'm going to make it so that I can share the screen so people understand that I'm just really doing this at random. And here we go. The question today: what board game do you like the most?
Monopoly. In fact, do you have Monopoly in the States? Of course you
Yes,
do.
we do.
It was invented in the States.
I was going to say, it's our game.
No, it's our game now. It's because I have a London version, you see.
Everybody has a version.
Everyone, yeah, every town has a version. I once played Monopoly so aggressively with an ex-girlfriend and beat her and bankrupted her so badly, she didn't talk to me for 2 days. And I had to give her flowers to get her to talk to me again. I was sleeping on the couch. It was that bad because I literally took all of the money, and that's why it's my most favorite game. I love it. What's yours? What's your favorite game?
So I really never had a favorite board game. Monopoly is one that we played a lot. Of course, we played the Game of Life. And I believe if I really truly had to pick one, I believe it was Risk.
Oh, that's such a great game. Yeah, such a great game. I haven't played that for
years. It was, all the other games, most board games, when you roll the dice, it's just, a luck of the roll most of the times. Risk was all about strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it was easier to play than chess.
Yes. Very true. Very true.
That was my game. All right. So thank you very much, Paul. That was enjoyable. And like I said, I do want to have you on again. So I hope that at some point you'll say yes, and we'll do that. And we'll obviously, again, try to make sure that we do it at a time that's reasonable for you and not 1 o'clock in the morning. And it's very dark there.
It is. This is the UK for you. It's dark and cold.
What time does it get dark?
I think it was 7:30 tonight. So we've just switched to British summertime, so it gets darker a little earlier. But give it a month, and it'll be getting dark about now. Okay,
all right. So not so bad. Not so bad. How's the weather this time of year?
Well, do you know, the last 2 days it's been what is it, about 70 Fahrenheit. So we work in centigrade here, but it shouldn't be 70 Fahrenheit at this time of year. So I've actually, I don't know if you can see it, but I've burnt the top of my head and my nose. So I've worked in the garden for 2 days.
Is that too warm?
Yeah, it was. Oh, it's not too warm, but for March, that's insane. You would normally expect it to be around. Well, on Monday they're predicting snow. So that's the UK is not like that. I mean, that sounds like Canada to me, but the UK is not normally that extreme. But yeah, we've had a mini heat wave here, which is great actually, because the day the heat wave started was the day they relaxed the lockdown restrictions here, and you're allowed to meet with other people in your garden. So it's just been perfect the last few days. It's been wonderful.
All right, so we are coming out of our winter today, 84 degrees.
This is, you see, I was supposed to come to Orlando and do the whole Disney World Universal thing with my 10-year-old daughter last year, and obviously lockdown. We're not going to do it this year as well. When I said to my travel agent, let's go to Orlando in August, she looked at me like I was insane and said, have you ever been to Orlando in August? It's very, very hot. And that sounds wonderful. 84 sounds just wonderful.
Yep, it is. So, when you come to Orlando, you got to let me know when you're over here, because that's not too far away from me. And I've always said that if you live outside of the state of Florida and you show up in Florida, you have to let me know.
Cool. Consider it done.
All right.
All right.
All right, folks. So there you have it. Paul Green's MSP Marketing on our last show of this month and the last in our series of No Marketing Marv Presents for this year. I think we're going to be doing this, if not every year, maybe a couple times a year. So these are very great podcasts. Thank you, Paul, for agreeing to jump on.
Thank you.
And folks, there you have it. That is going to do it for today's episode. Remember that Podnuts Pro is your podcast for IT business support. And we talk about products, we share stories and tips, all in an effort to help you run your business better, smarter, and faster. To go back and listen to past episodes, head over to podnutspro.com. You'll see all of the shows there, and you'll have links to both video and audio. And as I said, that is going to do it. And on behalf of my new friend, Paul Green, I want to say thank you. And until next time, holla.